Welcome back, everybody. It's been about 3 weeks before since I panel bonded these, and pretty happy with the way the panel bond came out because I'm really impressed with it. It's like liquid steel. It's pretty wild, especially on the dashboard for the Sport. Pretty cool, But what are we doing now? Well, we got to make them look pretty, and that involves copious amounts of filler and sanding, a lot of handwork. And for you, it's not going to be that long. For me, it's going to be weeks. And the problem is that when you put it on there, I'm going to let it cure for like 12 hours, or 24 hours, depend, because I want to do other things. This has kind of burned me out a little bit because I just, focused it, on getting these cars panel bonded as best I could. And, and I just pushed everything to it. So I'm still a little bit burned out, even though it's been 3 weeks, just like, I don't know if I want to work on them. But every time I look at it, it's like, man, it'd be awesome if these things are finished. So what do we got to do? Well, I got to pick with what's going to be the worst thing to do. The worst thing and the toughest thing will be the roof and the C-pillars on the Sport Quattro. Hands down, worst thing. The roof on this is ridiculously simple. Everything is simple on this. That is going to be the hardest. And also the rockers on both shouldn't be bad. Now that I curved them out when I split them and fiberglassed them on the inside, they actually look like a really nice transition. Better than I thought it was going to be, especially after looking at it. But it's still going to be some work. Other than that, first things first, I'm going to roll this thing over. I'm going to show you the challenges that we have with the roof and the C-pillars. Actually, mainly just the roof, because that's the hardest part. Because I'm blending two different roofs, the 4000 roof or Audi 80 roof into the coupe roof. Two different curvatures, in two different widths. That's the tough part. So, all right, let me roll this thing over. Let me show you what I got and what I'm planning on doing, because it's just gonna be a long and involved process. So I might as well start now. There we go. All right, let's bring you over here. Let's check it out. Here's the sunroof. I'm doing this all for a sunroof. So what we have here, this is right on the money all the way down here. As it comes back, it's still on the money on the sides. It's still on the money on the sides till it gets to here. This right here, if it goes up a little bit like this, it won't be matched with this side. So I want to keep it at this, how can I put it, this level across here. This goes up and goes back down. It's better to show it with this. This is a 4-foot level. If we take a look right here, we have a curvature, but not that bad. We have probably at the very far end a centimeter. Now if we go right here, we have a much stronger curve right there. So we need to push this down. It doesn't take much to push it down. And I can just do with very little force and it makes it equal. So we just need to take some of the tension out of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grind this. I'm going to slice it and re-weld it and just filler it out. So this thing just goes down just a hair. Because when you're sitting there looking at this, the coupe, which is pretty much a flat roof, and the 4000 is a little curved, I got to do the transition from this little line right here, what I want to keep, over to here. So it's just going to be a slight curve. But I need to get this hump down, And I was thinking about, the only problem is it's lapped over. I was thinking about shrinking it with a torch, but you'd have to cut anyway. So if I just slice it one little slice, we're only taking, 2 millimeters out of that slice, bringing it down and butt welding it all together, I think we're going to be good. That way, I'm going to use a lot less filler, and I think it'll be much nicer. That's the whole thing. I wanted to show you that. This is one of the challenges that you're going to do, and I think the reason why it did bowed like that is because I didn't properly brace in between the B pillars. I assumed, which is dumb, that the frame, the sunroof frame with the sunroof in, because when I cut it all up, no, I pulled the sunroof. but with the sunroof frame was going to be stiff enough so it wouldn't compress in, and that's not the case. So you're going to still, all right, if you guys are going to do this, brace the thing prior to you cutting it. All right, that's my mistake. That's a 2.5-year-old mistake or a 3-year-old mistake, and now I got to pay for it. You know, so let me get my stuff on, start cutting this up, and we will make it work because I have to make it work. Well, I have this all squared away, the sunroof. What it is that I used the old sunroof panel. Let me move this. I used the old sunroof panel. What I did was I put this in here. And made sure this line right here conformed to the contours of this sunroof. I pushed it back in and out just to test it. But what the thing is, I got it right there because there was a big hump right here because I did not brace the internal parts. So remember that. Brace the internal portions of your 5+5 and your coupe. Not really the coupe, but your 5+5 if you're going to be doing a sunroof. You'd be crazy too, but you know what? I resemble that remark. All right, let me get this out of here. Let me show you what I did to make sure, or get that hump down. With this hump right here, what was happening is when I welded it, it expanded the metal, I think, you know, plus being it crushed a little bit. It was, you know, it's like the perfect storm, you know, it made everything miserable. What I did was, you know, when I put the filler plate in here, because I had to use a different filler plate, trying to, you know, bring it all down, it still didn't do it. So what I did do was, first thing is I got just a regular C-clamp. This is a 3-inch C-clamp. Put it in here. I brought this section right here to just a little bit below where I wanted it, and then I made this. This is just a cheap Chinese pry bar basically, and I put a piece of 1/2-inch steel on it. I basically put it in here and I pushed up the metal like this. And what I did to do that is when this clamp is on and compressing it, this bar rides on this section. So when you push it, it won't move anywhere. Because if you push it on the other piece of this, on the other side of it, it'll just flop and it won't do anything. But I did that and I moved the C-clamp up and down just to push it all out to make it equal. It took me a few hours to do that. You know, because I had to do it in really small steps. Now, don't get me wrong, this thing still looks like, you know, the North Sea with all the waves in it. So it looks like the Atlantic Ocean. But it's actually, you know, the curvature is correct. And when I put a straight edge going down there, the most is probably like 2 mils of filler I'm going to have to use. Maybe 2.5, but it's not much at all. Also, see these discolorations up here? Because of this thing being compressed, this thing was indented, so it has a big dip right here. And what it was that, you know, all this metal couldn't spread out. So what I did was I used a torch and heated this things up. You can see it on YouTube. They're better at it than I am. But I heated them up. I heated them up, and I used the flat portion of the body hammer and tapped it down. Then let it cool. What it did is it shrinks the metal. You can't do too much of it, but it actually worked pretty well because it took out this huge dip here. There's still a little bit of a dip, but not much at all. And this is about as much as I want. I did three spots here, and I did 3 spots over here. And it worked really well. Right now I got to etch it or prep the metal, you know, then I'm going to apply the filler. What I'm going to use is what a friend of mine, Tom, he used to do a lot of old classic Porsches when he had a body shop, and he told me all about it, and this is what you use. Well, this is it. Go down to Home Depot or whatever package store you get, or whatever home improvement store you have, and just get some prep and etch. What is it? It's phosphoric acid. That's all it is. And when you put it on there, you're just etching the metal, or you're, how can I put this? It's like controlled rusting. And you're probably saying controlled rusting. Well, if you've ever seen a firearm, like the movie Dirty Harry, he had a Model 29, which was in the pistol was blue. That is blued, which is controlled rust, basically, is what it is. But they use special salts and all this stuff to get it. This is the way it was explained to me. And I said, you know what? It sounds pretty plausible. So, hey, I'm going to run with it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to etch this section right here. Just what I've cleaned up, everything right here to get all the, it'll take out all the rust, and it'll etch the metal to prevent rust. I'm going to let it sit for, I'm not sure what it was, 12 hours or 24 hours, but I'm going to let it sit. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you what I'm going to use for the first base of filler on this. So, all right, let me flip this back up, and I'm going to start etching it, and that's pretty much it. All right. And you'll see me in a second. I'll show you etching it, but it's just like, just have to get my gloves on. Big thing. Wear your eye protection too, because you don't want to go blind when you're making something like this. All right. Let me just flip this thing up, grab some gloves, put my eye protection back on there, and blast it out. Next morning, what we have a really nice color to the metal, which is like a bluish gray. Okay. The big thing now is I have to neutralize everything on it if there's any excess acid. The instructions on that basically states use water to do it. I use water with a little bit of baking soda in it. Not very much, but just enough because I'm too used to cleaning battery boxes and batteries. And you use, baking soda and water to neutralize that acid. The big thing is that, nothing reacted. It all looks really good, and I'm pretty happy with it. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to neutralize it, then I'm going to blow it off, then clean it with acetone to make sure there's no grease on it, then apply the filler. That's pretty much it. Nothing else. The big thing is I've never used this filler before, so it's kind of an experiment. And I'll show you the reason why. I'll show you the filler and reason why, but let me get to that. Let me first do this, then we can get on to putting the filler on, and I can show you what I'm using. Here it is. What I did. Wiped it down with water and a little bit of baking soda to neutralize any acid. You don't need the baking soda, but that's just me. Blew it off, wiped it down with acetone to get any type of grease or anything that might have been embedded in it off. What I had from the acid etch some little ridges all the way around here that looked like it was, I don't know, it was just old, like old rust brought up. The acetone was taking it off, but I figured, I needed to basically put some scratches in the metal so the filler bonds to it better. So I used the DA to bring it all down, and then I acetoned it again. Cleaned it all up, see? And it's just, normal acetone. I want to make sure this thing is absolutely clean. Now I'm going to go grab the filler and put it on and let it sit. Let me show you what I'm going to use for filler too. This is what we got to do the initial or the base coat or the base of the filler that we're putting in there. This is going to be the majority of it. What it is called Duraglass. It's made in America, and it's like middle of the road stuff. What it is I looked for the, how can I put this? Not the least expensive one, but the one that's where I would trust the materials that are actually in this product. There's a thing, I think it was U-Pole, made in China. It was half the cost of this, but it's made in China. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know what toxic waste they're throwing in it, and I don't want to find out. So I'm spending so much time, I figured, all right, I can get something that's made in America. Actually, this came from the Canadian distributorship for some reason. I don't know why. But basically, it was the best compromise. I could always get an Evercoat, but it's almost double the cost of this. And Evercoat, I believe, is made in Europe, or the EU. But I digress. All right, let me open this thing up, put some on my little spreading table, little brake rotor case, fill it out, see if I can do it, start spreading it, and we'll wait till tomorrow to see how it turns out. There it is. First coat's done. I don't know how many more coats are gonna be. It's gonna be a lot, because I don't like to put filler on too heavy. This is a skim that I'm just gonna, I'll sand it all down, put the next coat on, sand it down, and I'll use the fiberglass up until a point where I have to do small indentations on how to do this. So, all right, let me get my mask on and everything and start sanding. Wear your mask. All right, before I, how can I put this? Before I go to something else, I am going to have to Bondo this next, just to bring up the low spots. But I want to tell you what I'm doing with the ruler and the blocking pan, or blocking pad. This sunroof right here, or the sunroof that I have in it, is matched to the sunroof that goes in it. So this is the actual curvature of the 4000 roof. This right here is the Coupe GT line. That's more of a flat roof. It's flatter than the curvature of the Audi 4000. I'm trying to make this thing transition as nice as possible. This is why I'm using a ruler. I'm putting a ruler right here. It's on the edge of this Coupe GT, on the bottom of this indentation. Right here. And I'm going all the way to the sunroof right there. And make sure it's at a 90 degrees, because if you have it off, it'll bend and flex and conform. So if you have it exactly 90 degrees out there, you can look down saying, oh, okay, this thing is up like a 0.5 millimeter. Where is it? Well, a place right here. You just sand down and you just get down to it so it's absolutely straight from here to here. And I'm doing the entire thing like this. And then I have to go through with it again and mark all of the low spots. The low spots is I look up, have the light on the other side, and I take a pencil, and whenever I see daylight, I start marking pencil right here, and then it goes out, goes out, goes out, goes out, goes back in, and then stops daylight. So that gives me the only place that I need to actually put the filler in. That's just, the way I'm doing it right now. I mean, I'm not a professional body guy. That's it, but this is the way I feel like it's going to transition the best. Now what I got to do next is I got to mix up some Bondo. Let me show you one of the best tools I bought used that I have that I think everybody should own if they're going to be doing this stuff. Here, let me bring you over to the bench. Let me show you. This is what every car hillbilly needs. A paint shaker. That's what you need. Telling you right now, I bought this thing from a guy for 60 bucks. And it has saved me so much money. I don't know if you guys ever use red oxide primer. You go down to like Tractor Supply and get implement paint and use red oxide primer underneath it. If that thing sits in your store shelf or your storeroom for like 5-6 months, because you don't use it all the time. You open it up, and the bottom is everything has just come out of suspension. It's fallen to the bottom. And I remember trying to stir it up with a paint stir, and it never ever worked. And I'm sitting there going, how am I ever gonna? I mean, I hate going out and spending another, what was it, like 20-30 bucks or whatever for a gallon, just because you spray fence posts with it, and I sprayed a lot of stuff with it, and it actually works pretty decent. But it's like every time. I mean, probably it's $70 now with inflation since the last time I bought it. But what it was I got this, I fixed it, I made it work, and then I said, I wonder what would happen if I put that in there. So I put the red oxide primer in here, and I set it to 15 minutes, and I walked away. Unbeknownst to me, the timer doesn't work. So after 30 minutes, it was still going, what's going on? Oh, shoot, the timer doesn't work. Well, it's just one thing. But I pulled it off, I opened it up, and it was like brand new. It was like it was never, it never fell out of suspension. So that saved me, let's just say $30 right then and there. So that's half the price, so I only paid $30 for it. Then I'm sitting there going, all right, well, I have to go buy another coat of lightweight filler in order to go on top of the Duraglass. And I'm sitting there going, all right, well, let's take a look at what it is. And like Bondo is, like this for a gallon is $60. I just have a quart left of this. And I'm looking at it going, all right, well, I had this in there. This is Evercoat, which is a premium filler. Really good. And what it was I'm looking at, it's like $110, $120 a gallon people are asking for. It's like, oh my God. I wonder, so I opened it up, tried a paint stir, put a stick in it, pull some out, didn't work. And I'm sitting there going, I wonder if you could stir this thing. So I took the paint stir, went through it, pulled it out, and there was oil in the bottom of the paint stir. And I'm sitting there going, I wonder if this acted just like the red oxide primer that came out of suspension. So, took this, threw it in there for about 20 minutes, came back perfectly. It paid for itself. And plus, I've used it to stir up all different types of paint. But this is just 2 examples of probably the 20 or 30 examples that I have of it saving me money. So, if you guys can do it, get one of these paint shakers. It'll save you in the long run. All right, what I got to do is, seeing how this is all stirred up, I'm going to add some hardener, or put some on the cardboard, put some hardener in it, go to town. I'll see you tomorrow because I got to let it sit overnight to harden. See? Looks brand new. You're probably wondering, I use this stuff and tape all around through here. What I did was I filled all the cavities inside here. And you're probably saying, is that to stop water? Yeah, kinda, but it won't. It won't stop water. What it does stop is leaves and dirt and twigs and all that stuff. All that matter that goes down inside there that traps the water, holds it against the chassis, and allows everything to rot out. A lot of problem with Volkswagen Audis of the 2000s. I'm not sure if it still happens with other cars, but I just know those are definitely a problem. What happens is all the leaves and stuff and dirt go behind the fender well liners, traps in the fender and holds the moisture and rots everything out. That's why they rot out. So they can't drain. If it was just water draining out, it would be fine, you know. But that's another thing that the manufacturers don't think about, you know. But other than that, you also saw me use tape. Tape is a great molding structure. You can put the tape right here, put the tape right here, and you put the foam in, it comes out, and it basically just conforms to what you had the tape. I think it works really, really well because you can take the tape and it peels right off and does not stick to the foam. It just leaves what you molded. That's pretty much it. That's what I wanted to say. Other than that, I have to go mix more Bondo because now that I got this off, I can use the Bondo all down through here, and I can go do the rest. I also did the Sport also with this, and the inner fender wells and all the stuff that I can find that I can seal up. I did. All right, let me get back to doing that. Stop blabbering, and we will get the rest of the stuff done. All right, I didn't have time to film it. What it was, we got a break in the weather. It's nice weather out, and what I want to do is I want to put the bottom in the engine bay in color. Now, you're probably saying, it's like, well, why you want to do that right now? Well, if I can do that right now, that means when this is all done, well, this is all in color, I can take this when I'm done with the rest of the bodywork that I like to have on the rotisserie, and I need to finish up the ends where the rotisserie is bolted to. I can take the drivetrain, clean it up, dump it in here for its final time. Then I can sit there and put it on the dolly and then finish up the bodywork and spray it. Because you're always going to cover up the engine bay anyway. And I'm not going to, I don't need to paint the engine bay at the same time as I paint the rest of the car. So what I'm trying to do now, or what I did was I sandblasted all the stuff I could until my sandblaster kind of gave up the ghost. What it is, I bought one of these. Here. This is from Amazon, and it's one of those, Dussel sandblasters that hook onto your pressure washer. These things work the bomb if the sand is super dry, has zero moisture in it. It picks it up, it really does a good job. The extra sand that I bought to finish this thing up came, I pulled it out of the bag to put it in there, and there was moisture in it, and it clogged the living snot out of this thing. It didn't work at all. So just to let you know, if you're going to use this, make sure the sand is set it out in the sun for a month and make sure it's good. What you see now is that I went over the entire thing, everything that I blasted, everything I used the grinders and all that stuff for, and all the welds. I used this right here. It's called Prep and Etch. All it is etching the metal, getting it ready for paint. What it is just phosphoric acid. That's it, nothing special. Make sure you wear your gloves and eye protection and all that crap when you do this too. Other than that, I gotta put away that stuff. I'm gonna come back. It says to let it sit 12 to 24 hours. And when I come down, I'm gonna probably, they said neutralize it with water, which I will. I'll probably pressure wash everything. That way, I'll let it dry, and hopefully the next day I can get some epoxy primer on it, and then some single stage paint, so I can make it all one color. Because you're really not looking at the bottom thing. I'm just trying to protect it. The epoxy is mainly for this section right here and for the suspension pieces down there. That's about it. And then I can blast the entire thing out and then roll it back in. If the weather kind of holds out, I'm going to do the same thing to the rally car that's in there, but I kind of think no, because I don't have any dry enough sand. That's the problem. But I'll see what I can do, if I can do it. All right, I'm going to put away everything, and when you come back, probably the next shot, I'll probably be spraying the stupid thing. Well, next morning, got my coffee, and I'm looking at my handiwork. It's shiny. That's about it. But it's underneath the car, What we have here is we have an epoxy coating, and we have a top coat. And that pretty much protects it from the elements is what I'm trying to get on with it. It's never really going to be seen. But what it is that same way I have this section done, the tunnel, and the bottom half of the engine bay, when this thing is sitting on the dolly, I can't get at those areas. And I want the drivetrain up inside it because I need the dolly. That's where the drivetrain is sitting right now. I have it all up inside here, all done. So when I plastic up the engine, I'm going to paint the top part of the engine bay. I'll make sure that looks nice and do the sides and, you know, do the rest of the body. I can spray that and get that done. That way, this is all done, so I don't have to worry about doing the bottom. You know, running on the left and taking everything back off. But this thing, it's fine. I mean, the only thing is, you could tell it was cold last night. You know, and whether or not, I mean, how can I put this? I'm gonna try and do the rally car, because right after I did this last night, seeing how I had my paint respirator on, I did the entire rally car with acid etch. You know, the phosphoric acid. You know what? I had this done, and I figured another hour and a half, and it was, you know, let's just say it was a long day. But it's the first coat is done. I have to go clean it up with a wire wheel, and then redo it. Then let that sit overnight, scuff it, and primer and paint the bottom of that. You know, in the bottom section of the engine bay, just to get it done. That's it. Make it one color, get it done. Nothing fancy. It's going to be cheapo paint. That's it. But let me show you what the rally car looks like now. And yeah, you know what? I'm pretty happy with the way it came out because it's all one color. That's what makes me happy. So, and it's just like, yeah, there's dirt in the paint here and there's dirt in the paint there, and it's just like, yeah, you can see the marks. Yeah, but who cares? it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna have an awful lot of stones thrown at it on my gravel road. All right, let me show you what the rally car is, and then I gotta get my mask back on, my particle mask, and that way I can start sanding that and getting that thing prepped to prime and do the same thing as this, but I have to do the entire pan, not just this small sections. All right, let me show you that. I should have taken a before and after. This thing was brown with a rust because of, you know, it was unprotected metal. Sitting in a shop with humidity in it, water forms up, it beads up on it, and guess what? That's what you get. But it's kind of interesting when you take the phosphoric acid, run it all over this thing to etch the metal, come back down the next day, and it's a dark blue. It's like, huh, that's cool. It shocks me every single time I see it. And it pleases me actually every time I see it. But what I have to do now is go around it with a wire wheel, clean everything up, and just go to town, you know, cleaning up all the welds. I found a couple of places which I missed for not patching the floor because this thing is such a rust bucket. I should actually replace the front floor pans, but it's not going to happen because A, I don't have them, and B, I don't have the tools to make them. So we're just going to run with what we got, patch what I can, and we'll see what I can do without that. Or if I can't do it, because a lot of the front's hard to patch because it's so thin. It's so rusty on the inside. I mean, you're looking minute things, and plus I'm running a false floor anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But what I got to do now is clean this up and get it ready for paint and primer. Now, what I'm going to use on this is not going to be automotive paint and primer. I'm going to use tractor paint and primer on the bottom of this car. It's the same thing as a Sport. I want the center section of this and the bottom section of the engine bay painted white, so when I put it on the dolly and have the engine and drivetrain and everything inside there, I won't be able to reach the white sections down below, but nobody's ever going to see them anyway. But I want to have it, you know, up enough so I can blend in the Volkswagen white, because it's a different shade, into the engine bay, which is going to be fine. But the bottom, you're never going to know, because it's not going to be seen. It's going to be covered with skid plates and all this other stuff. So it doesn't really, you know, I really don't care as long as it's white. And the interior is going to be black, just like the rally cars were, because that's to cut down glare. All right, first thing I have to do is I have to get my gear on and some wire wheels. I'm just going to do a quick cleanup, and then I'm going to go around and just look and say, okay, well, I need to grind this. I need to put a patch there. I'm not going to have you guys watch that because you've already seen me do all the fabrication work on it anyway. It's, you know, you saw me with building all these small patches. Well, I got to do a couple over there. So it just takes time. That's it. Let me get my stuff on, get right to it and get this thing ready, because hopefully, not today or tomorrow, but I think in the next, not 2 or 3 days from now, it's going to warm back up with a high of like over 50 degrees. So that'll give me a chance to shoot this thing, you know, and that'll probably be the end of it. And even then, after that, I'm looking at the temperatures, and it's getting really close to whether or not I can do any more Bondo work. I got to figure out, you know, to make sure to see if I can do it, but I'm going to try. I am definitely going to try. Let me get my stuff on. I'm going to turn the camera off, turn the radio up, and do this all up. Just go to town with it, all right? This is the preview. I'm doing it. I'm not paying anybody to do it. And remember, you can do it. All right. Well, I'll leave that to the end of the video. Wow. Okay, what I did. This is its third acid etch. First acid etch, I went around it just to get all the major rust off and to see what I have. Then I basically, with that first acid etch, I used a pressure washer, washed the living bejesus out of it, used trisodium phosphate and car wash basically to get any single bit of grease off of this thing, is what I did. And then I acid etched it again, went around it with a wire wheel. And after I did that, I'm looking around going, anything I needed to patch, I patched, which I put a bunch of small patches all through here because it was so thin, I had to do something. Also, what I did was I patched over the material, so if I ever get a bead roller and all that stuff, if I want to make floor pans of this thing, the original is underneath the patch, and it gives me a template. That's the reason why I did that. All patches are just overlays. Now, what I gotta do, I'm gonna let this sit overnight. Tomorrow, I'm gonna wire wheel it, clean it all up, spray it with primer, and paint it white on the bottom and in the bottom half of the engine bank. That way, I can get this thing on the dolly if I need to. But the big thing is, tomorrow is the last day that's even remotely close to 50 degrees, and I'm really pushing it whether or not it's gonna work or not. So, but it's the bottom of the car, it's not the top of the car. All right, I'm gonna cut this right now, and we'll just fade right to me either unveiling it or spraying it. I'm not really sure. So, all right, but I just want to let you know, this is what it's gonna look like after 3, and you got it went from brown rust to metal, and it's actually turning a nice shade of like a bluish gray. So, all right, there you go. Phosphoric acid works the bone. All right, let me get out of here because it freaking stinks, and I'll see you tomorrow. Well, this is how I got it out of the barn. Used the tractor with my homemade forks. And there it is in all its glory. What I'm gonna do, shoot one side, flip it over to the other thing, shoot the other thing with primer, and pretty much it. That's it. I'm just gonna bake it on, one coat, and then I'm gonna bake on a couple of thick coats of paint. That way it should protect it. It's such cheap paint, I don't really care if I have to grind some of it off. I mean, I did find some stuff that I need to do, but seeing how today is the only day and the next 4 months that it's gonna be to 50 degrees, so now I gotta do it. I have to do it. So, all right, let me get on with that. And I think when you see this again, you'll see little bits and pieces. But other than that, I gotta shoot this mofo and get her done. Well, what do you think? Oh, well, that's a lot of white. Well, I think we made it right under the gun because this is going to be the end of part 1, which is intermission. Intermission is going to be for a couple of months. I'm looking at the weather forecast. I got this thing sprayed at the very last day, you know. And I let this thing, it's been a couple days. It snowed an inch last night, and the forecast says it's not going to even hit 40 for at least 2 weeks, which means for at least 3 months. And I thought you know, I'm going to be doing other stuff because I'm going to repair the drivetrains to get in here. This one was sprayed, single stage L041 black, standard Audi black. It's what the original color of the car is. This one, Tractor Supply, gloss white. Actually, it came out better than I thought because the paint's probably 5 years old or 8 years old or something like that. I had it, it's been sitting in there forever. I put it in my paint shaker and it shook up really well. I mean, it was fine. Same thing with the primer. I mean, I shook it up pretty well, went fine, went on. The first two coats was terrible. The last coat, which I let it sit sit longer, went on really nice, and then this is actually, I'm pretty pleased with it, you know. What it is that I can't even do any body work because the Bondo, I'm not worrying about the Bondo hardening, I'm worrying about it adhering to the panel. Same thing with primer, because what was kind of odd, it was like 50 degrees up until, you know, like not even a week ago, probably a couple of days ago, and then it's plummeted. And this is just the way it is, you know. And you as a car guy, if you're not going to be in a professional shop, guess what? You know what? Just go to do something else, you know, and just allow the time, because you know what? It just doesn't matter. It just does, you know. You'll eventually get it done, so you might as well, you know, get it done. The biggest thing is, you know, get it done later when conditions, you know, are in your favor. And I don't have heat down here, so the big thing is I can bolt up all the suspension, the drivetrain, everything into both cars and get those done and get them off the rotisseries. That way, everything else, I mean, seeing how this is just gloss white, who cares? I'm going to blend in everything that you can't hit from the top down, I hit with the gloss white. So with the engine's going to be sitting right here, but I'll have plenty of room in back, and I'll spray it and blend it in, you know, the white for the base or for the final coat on this car, because I'll use probably single stage on the inside of the cabin, standard Audi white, and for the boot and the front engine bay, same thing. I'll use standard, you know, single stage for the boot, trunk lid, whatever. I didn't paint the inner fender wells on this really. I just, you know, whatever paint I had left over, I just threw it on it. But the main thing was getting the center and the rear section set up, you know, which I think it looked pretty cool, and getting everything on the front painted so I can, you know, tape the engine and go around it. But my big thing is I'm going to clean up, you know, the next videos you see are going to be either on tractor stuff or cleaning up, you know, the engines and getting them installed, just cleaning everything. I got to build, you know, shifter mechanisms. I got to do all this stuff. So which is, it's not going to be wasted of time. You know, I'm just going to get it in here, and then I'm going to disassemble the Subaru and put Subaru on one of these rotisseries, because I got to do that in order to do, I don't want to get myself caught out again like I did on these, where it was a mad rush, you know, when the temperature came up for me to panel bond. I don't want to happen with that. I want to get that thing done. Okay, it's done. You know, and just, it'd be a waiting game. Other than that, thanks for showing up. You know, I mean, it's been quite interesting. Boy, these time wasters. They're time wasters. But, alright, well, thanks again. Hope to see you in next video. I'm not sure what it is. No idea. But, yeah. Hope you like what it's coming out to be. But that's it. Thanks again. Appreciate you showing up. Bye now.